Hello, welcome. This is 5 on 20 News. My name is Richard Aguirre, and this is how large my head is. We're coming to you live from the studio in downtown Tucson. It is Thursday, November 9th. Let's start out with local headlines. Arizona Representative Paul Gozer spoke in support of an effort to drill for oil in federal lands, which passed the House of Natural Resources Committee yesterday in a 19-14 vote. The strengthening of the economy with the Critical Untapped Resources to Expand American Energy, or SECURE Act, which would boost oil and natural gas drilling on federal lands in Alaska and the Atlantic coast. The act would provide for the states to take share of revenue from future offshore drilling and the end of the president's authority to withdraw offshore areas for drilling. It would also require all planned offshore drilling rights sales to occur. On federal lands, it would allow states to take over permitted and oversight authority for drilling within their borders, which Republicans claim would remove unnecessary government red tape. On the House floor, Gozer, who is chairman of the committee, said that the SECURE Act provides a multifaceted approach to improving access and management of our nation's valuable energy sources. The vote was largely among partisan lines, with only Louisiana Republican Garrett Graves voting against it. Graves says that he supports its policies but would refuse to vote unless it allowed Louisiana to get a higher share of the revenue from the drilling. Democrats oppose the legislation, with California Representative Alan Lowenthal saying that the bill does nothing to solve the real energy problems we're facing today. The committee rejects numerous Democratic amendments, including one that would require a 1,500-foot setback from homes and businesses for gas wells. They also wanted to extend a moratorium on offshore drilling near Florida and required that all federal drilling consult with American Indian tribes. Gozer said that the amendment was unnecessary because it would burden the Indian tribes, who are too busy running all those casinos. Arizona Senator Jeff Flake co-sponsored legislation that would ban the sales of firearms to anyone convicted of domestic violence crimes on Tuesday. This bill is called the Domestic Violence Loophole Closure Act and clarifies an existing law that requires the military to report misdemeanors of domestic violence to a database used for background checks. Flake introduced the bill along with Democratic Senator Martin Heinrich of New Mexico. Since 2007, the military has reported just one conviction of misdemeanor domestic violence. Federal law currently states that individuals that are convicted of felonies or misdemeanors of domestic violence cannot have access to a firearm. However, in Arizona, only a felony conviction bans one possessing a firearm. Pima County Attorney Barbara Lowell said that one of her biggest challenges is the vast majority of domestic violence offenders have not been convicted of felonies, but only misdemeanors. Remember, people, guns don't kill people, irresponsible legal loopholes kill people. The one I just mentioned. Premiums on the Affordable Care Act marketplaces may see a decrease in Arizona, according to an analysis by Avril, a healthcare consulting firm. Despite the good news, officials are concerned about the shortened window to enroll in the ACA, better known as Obamacare. The window to enroll has been cut from the previous years to 45. However, hours have also been shortened, and outreach and advertisement budget has been cut, making it even more difficult for individuals to enroll. Critics say that this is Trump administration's effort to collapse the law, which is opposed by the president and the Republican Party. Last month, during a cabinet meeting, Donald Trump said that Obamacare is finished, it's dead, it's gone. But the analysis by Avril showed that premiums in Arizona would likely fall by 6% in 2018 for a mild tier silver plan. The news comes 1 year after Arizona premiums skyrocketed by 116%, which was used by the president to prove that the law was failing. But Alan Giersvig, director of the Arizona Alliance for Community Health Centers, says that 2017 was a correction year, in the state which previously had some of the lowest costs in the country. While things are looking good for Arizona, the Kaiser Family Foundation said that other states may see premiums rise by 7 to 38%. The group blamed the increases on actions by the Trump administration to destroy the ACA. Among these efforts were the shortened enrollment periods, 12-hour blackout on Sunday from midnight to noon, when the online system was taken down for maintenance. Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva called these cuts sabotage and systematic, orchestrated, and deliberate attempt to destroy the law. In response, Donald Trump thanked Grijalva for his kind words. Arizona State Representative Michelle Ugenti-Rita claims that she's been consistently sexually harassed by her fellow Representative Don Shooter since she arrived in the legislature in 2011. In a tweet on Tuesday, Ugenti-Rita said that, "I've been contacted by several people concerning an individual regard for my sexual harassment claim and confirmed Don Shooter is one of them." She said that Shooter attempted to ask about her chest, came to her hotel room uninvited with a beer, and told her that he loved her. She claims that she told Shooter several times to stop. On one occasion, she said that at a Republican fundraiser, Shooter walked up to Ugenti at her car and tried to convince her to go to a hotel room where the event took place. Ugenti said that she reported the behavior to House leadership, but nothing was done. House Speaker J.D. Mesnard said that her claims would be investigated. Governor Doug Ducey said that he supports an investigation. In a statement, Ducey said that there can be absolutely no tolerance for sexual harassment in the halls of our state capitol or any other organization, public or private. Shooter apologized for his actions in a statement, saying that upsetting anybody was the last thing I ever intended to do. He then said that he wanted to talk to Ugenti and that he would, quote, do better. But after seeing the specific claims, Shooter said that I absolutely withdraw my apology, and continued by saying, Miss Ugenti is lying about me. And I asked Speaker Mesnard to have the entire matter investigated by the House of Ethics Committee. He said that he would consider legal action by the end of the investigation. If found guilty in the investigation, Don Shooter will have to rename himself to Don Creeper. Don Creeper. Now in national and international news. The Pentagon acknowledged that it has known for 20 years about lapses in their system for reporting domestic violence charges, such as those that may have been prevented the shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas over the weekend. Details emerged about the shooter Devin Kelley, such as his 2012 conviction of domestic violence and that he was previously caught sneaking firearms onto Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. At the time, Kelley reported planning to carry out death threats against his military superiors. Air Force spokeswoman Ann Stefnak said that she could not confirm these details because of privacy issues. Officials say that the shooting may have resulted from a domestic situation involving Kelley's mother-in-law. Kelley was also found to have been court-martialed in 2012 for domestic violence against his wife and had escaped a mental facility. Yet none of this was reported by the Air Force, where Kelley served, before being kicked out on bad conduct discharges, which is not surprising to me. As recently as February 2015, the Pentagon Inspector General reported that hundreds of convicted offenders' fingerprints were not submitted to FBI criminal history database. The report found that about 30% failure rate for submitting fingerprints in criminal case outcomes. A 1997 report by the Inspector General also found widespread lapses in fingerprint cards that were not submitted to the FBI criminal history files in more than 80% of cases, in the Army and Navy, and 30% in the Air Force. It also found that failure to report the outcome of criminal cases was 79% in the Army, 50% in the Air Force, while in the Navy it was 94%. The report cited several reasons for the lapses, including a lack of interest among military services, who viewed the FBI as being overburdened with data. In Kelley's case, federal law prohibited him from buying or possessing firearms, but because his info wasn't sent to the FBI, he was able to buy his guns. The Pentagon says that they will investigate the issue again and then do absolutely nothing about it. All right, next one. Anti-abortion lawmakers in the House and Senate are pushing a so-called conscious protection bill that they say would protect healthcare professionals who don't want to take part in abortions because of personal objections. The Conscious Protection Act allows healthcare providers like nurses and doctors to sue if they're coerced into participating in abortions if they face discrimination at work for refusing. It also provides a legal avenue for hospitals health systems, religious charities, and insurance companies are required to participate or provide coverage for abortions. Current law already bans discrimination against healthcare providers who refuse to participate in abortions. However, it doesn't allow the discriminated against to seek legal action. Representative Diane Black of Tennessee, sponsor of the bill, said that Congress needs to act now so that we can allow millions of Americans who believe, as I, in the sanctity of life, to abide by those beliefs without having them trampled on by the government. Black is running for the governor of Tennessee in 2018. The bill's language was included in the 2018 House Appropriations package passed earlier this year, and legislators are pushing for it to be included in the end-of-year spending package in December. Congress must approve a spending bill by December 8th in order to prevent the government from shutting down. Supporters of abortion rights argue that the proposal would encourage discrimination against women seeking abortion care. But to be fair, breathing oxygen is enough to encourage anti-abortion activists to discriminate. The Trump administration set new rules yesterday, making it more difficult to visit Cuba or do business in the country. This satisfies a pledge made by Trump to roll back on the Obama administration's attempt to open up ties with Cuba. The restrictions began today and aimed to prevent the military, intelligence, and security arms of Cuba's government from benefiting from American tourism and trade, according to the White House. Trump said in June that the Cuban government continues to oppress its people, and President Obama made too many concessions when he opened up tourism and trade in 2014. The regulations include a ban on Americans doing business with about 180 Cuban government entities, holding companies and tourism companies and tourism companies. The list included 83 state-owned hotels, along with the city's luxury shopping malls. Cuba's foreign ministry said that all these measures hurt the Cuban people because government revenue and funds Cuba's free education and healthcare systems. Some Republican leaders thought that the new regulations are so lax, while Democrats dismissed them as counterproductive. Senator Marco Rubio said that this list failed to go far enough because it ignored companies like Gran Caribe Hotel Group, which has ties to the Cuban government. Democratic Senator Patrick Leahy says that the regulations are unfair to the Cuban people and criticized Trump for this week's visit in China, a country that is arguably just as authoritarian as Cuba. Lee said that the hypocrisy of the White House ideologues is astounding. United States travelers will still be able to make authorized trips to Cuba with United States-based organizations, but it will be harder to travel. It would be harder for individuals to travel. Travelers need to be able to show a full-time schedule with activities that support Cuban people and show meaningful interactions. Since this is Trump administration's rule, meaningful interactions means golfing and sitting in a hotel room and tweeting about Hillary. The House Ways and Means Committee approved a Republican-led plan to reform the tax system earlier today, paving the way for a vote in the full House next week. The House of GOP plan would permanently slash the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%, with a separate 25% tax on small businesses. The plan would also make it more difficult for hedge funds and international corporations to avoid paying some United States taxes. The number of existing tax breaks would be reduced from 7 to 4, while keeping the highest tax rate at 39.6%. Taxpayers would see their standard deduction double to $12,000 for individuals and $24,000 for families, a change that Republicans say will tax the majority of taxpayers. However, Democrats say that the bill will mainly benefit big businesses and a handful of wealthy people. A recent study by the Nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation found that about 6% of taxpayers earning over $1 million per year would see a tax break of over $500,000 by 2025. More than half of those earning between $30,000 and $40,000 will see a tax break of under $100,000 that same year. In response, Donald Trump said that $100 is pretty much what new cars go for these days, right? A little out of touch. The Senate today announced their own plan that diverges from the House plan. The Senate tax proposal would delay the corporate tax cut until 2019 and keep the current 7% tax brackets. However, the current 7 tax brackets. However, plans adjusting the qualification levels and doubling the standard deduction for individuals, married couples, and single parents. It also protects popular tax breaks that were removed from the House bill, including deductions for medical expenses, interest on student loans to pay for college, charitable giving, and mortgage interest. Deduction for homeowners as well. In the House bill, the mortgage interest deduction was limited to home purchases of $500,000. In contrast, the Senate bill kept the deduction at the current $1 million limit. Both bills bump up the child tax credit from $1,000 to $1,650. Another big change is that while the House looks to repeal the state gift tax entirely, the Senate bill would limit the amount that is exempt to $11 million before an estate is taxed. Possibly one of the biggest differences is that the Senate bill would delay lowering the corporate tax rate to 20% until 2019, which could make a hard sell in Congress. Changes from the House bill will certainly lead to a battle ahead in order to find a compromise with the House bill. The GOP hoped to deliver a full bill to the president by the end of the year, but it looks unlikely considering the amount of dealing that has to take place. Trump has proposed settling the matter in a steel cage match broadcast on pay-per-view, with proceeds going to help his legal bills. I would watch that. That sounds good. Venezuela's Constituent Assembly approved a law that punishes messages of hate in the broadcast and social media and penalties reaching 20 years in prison. The new law comes in the midst of rising tensions between Venezuela and President Nicolas Maduro. The assembly was created in July by Maduro in a controversial vote that was seen as a way for Maduro to increase power. He later installed mainly supporters into the assembly who helped pass the law. The new law is designed to encourage, quote, broadcast message aimed at promoting peace, tolerance, equality, and respect, according to the legislation's text. The president of the Constitutional Assembly, Delcy Rodriguez, said that the law is designed to counter extremist sectors of Venezuela's right-wing opponents. The law also prohibits opposition to political parties that don't comply with the Assembly's anti-hate law from registering with the government-dominated National Electoral Council. While on a diplomatic trip, Donald Trump salivated at the news and told advisories that he would need to give that Maduro guy a call. I want to stop right there and just take a moment to talk about this that you're watching right now, this big head that I have right here. This is 5 on 20 News, and we're undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We are going to give you the news as we see it, and we want more people to join us. We need writers, hosts. You can do this. You can anchor with a big head. We need camera people, sound people. We need everything. The times require a new way of informing ourselves, so join us. Do it now. Email us at creativetucson.org. And if you think there's a story we're missing, or a person we should interview, or an upcoming event we should cover, or have any tips for us all, just email us at creativetucson.org. We're here for you, and we want to cover all stories from all points of view, so don't be strangers. All right? I'm talking to you, Tucson. Well, this was 5 on 20 News. Like I just said, my name is Richard Aguirre. Don't forget to like this video, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on any other social media platforms. Just search Creative Tucson. You can find all our news and all of our content there. Like I said, feel free to bother us at creativetucson.org. And that's it. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching, Tucson.